In animation, colorful rounded fabric squares converge, spiraling upward. Ability Summit.
One of the goals of Ability Summit is to raise the bar in event inclusion, making sure that everything that we do around here, we learn from every year. And we've learned a lot, but there's still a lot, and every single year we raise that bar. To explore what this journey has been like and where we still need to go, we're going to turn the camera on ourselves. In fact, we're going to have, well, the amazing leader of our events team here, Bob Bejan, and Dona, who is the Accessibility Director of Technology. She runs the whole ship on my team. Bob, Dona, take it away.
Thank you, Jenny. So, Bob, thank you for letting me corral you for 5 minutes to have a
Dona has brown hair and is wearing a blue and yellow patterned dress.
For a long time now, and I've been so impressed with how much effort you all put into making sure these events are inclusive and reach as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Right? You are constantly experimenting, constantly learning, and every time I'm in here in this studio, things have changed. So things have changed. So tell us about that. How does it all start?
Bob is wearing glasses and a black jacket.
I think at the foundation level of it, I think there's this relationship between kind of three sides of a triangle. One is that from the inception of the brief process, right from the very beginning of making any of these experiences, you've got to have experts involved, right? There's got to be people that are of the audience that you're speaking to. And that's especially true with accessibility, right? Because I think for so many of us, it's easy to miss these things or not even be thinking. Our awareness is still so low, right, in the evolution of getting good at this. And so having people in that process all the way to the beginning, foundational. The other thing is this ongoing dialogue with the audience itself, right, the attendees that are coming to these shows and giving you feedback. And you've just got to be this kind of constant listening vessel to take that all in and really, you know, kind of hear it and absorb it and process it. And then I think the last piece, which maybe is the most important and the hardest to do, and that is as an organization, as a team, as individuals on that team, the ability to keep knowing that no matter how good we get, we will always be doing things wrong. Mm-hmm. And then the willingness and the courage to kind of not be defensive and just go, that was wrong. Okay, what do we need to do to make that better and make that change? And so this combination of people involved from the very beginning, listening to the audience constantly and having the kind of internal strength to kind of say, yep, blew that one. You know, what do we need to do to get better? I think that really is the combination that we're working on all the time.
And that lines up with the disability and accessibility community's entire thing about nothing about us without us. And I love seeing all of you live that and just how you do the event productions, not just for Ability, but I've seen this for Build, I've seen this for Ignite. You know, you and I have known each other a long time. And back in 2005, when I did my first Microsoft presentation.
You were 12 then.
Oh my gosh. And honestly, we were holding stuff together with like duct tape and a dream and like 2 goats and a horse, right? We've come a long way. True. And in 2020, we flipped from completely in person to completely virtual in like, what, 2 months? Mm-hmm. That was chaos and pandemonium. And then now we've settled at this newest normal, the latest normal of hybrid. So I would love to learn what are some of the lessons and learnings that all of you have picked up along the way regards to accessibility.
Well, I mean, it's just like this ongoing treadmill of learning, right? But I think, you know, you look at something when we moved into the pandemic period, like the town hall meetings, for example, this thing that was very analog, right? In the cafeterias, hundreds of people sitting there. We shot it like television, but, you know, things like the ASL language being incorporated into that show was as simple as putting somebody on the side of the stage doing that translation into that language. But then all of a sudden now we're completely digital, and now what do we do? And how do we create that event in a digital way and incorporate that screen into the experience in a way that works and is in harmony with the content that you're delivering and that kind of thing? which led us to the next level, which was, how do we deal with now closed captions in that digital world? And how do we change those languages and make that easy to do? And what's that change? And then, of course, we very quickly got into the next level of it, which was like, how do we do, audio visual descriptions and that kind of thing? And how does that work? And are we making the speakers stop and wait for those descriptions? Or how is all of that going to work together? And then, of course, we evolved and got into just audio descriptions and combining them in a way that made sense. And then we got into this idea of toggling, so ASL on or the language ASL off, closed captions on, off, so that we really could, if you wanted to be very focused and just watch the show, and you could, and that was enough for you, you could do it that way, or whatever pieces you needed. And so, again, I think it's not like this very rigorous, singular way, but it is about this kind of an approach and an attitude, and I think a posture, a learning posture, listening, that really is the common thread through it all.
I can see that, right? And your audience can see that in real time, because you are very consciously making sure everyone have the options they need to have the best possible experience. And your neurodivergent friends, such as myself, thank you, because at first we're like, there's a lot of information on the screen. And I love the options, but being able to not have them is one of the best options of all. So I do appreciate that. So I have a funny story for you. When I first started presenting with you all virtual in the studio, I don't know if you remember the flying machine. So I called it. The flying machine would come at me with words on them. So the flying word machine. People would say, okay, Donna, go ahead and read it in real time. And I'd say, I'm dyslexic. I don't read words well, much less flying words who are coming at me. And I love that your team was able to co-create with me, even back in the day, in real time. Just like that, they switched. They said, okay, this machine will not fly at you. You're going to have a confidence monitor right near you, your entire script on that, a second monitor, which is how we're doing it here today, with just your words and the keywords being piped into your ear. And that worked for me. And while it was super customized, we've been doing that for all other dyslexic folk who've been coming into the studio, and they've been actually giving me feedback saying, how do they know how to put on a conference with dyslexic speakers? I'm like, because they co-created. They didn't make stuff up, they co-created. So I really appreciate that. So, not every event has the resources to put on a production like what we have here with extra monitors, even flying monitors, teleprompter operators. Many of our customers, we have 1.5 billion Microsoft customers all over the world. Many of them want to do events, whether it's a local meetup or, 50 people in a virtual event. What are some pieces of advice you would give them?
Well, I think it goes back to these very human things we were talking about earlier. In so many ways, kind of accessibility is kind of less about the tech and much more about the intention, right? And I think the intention and then expressing that intention in an event goes so far, right, in terms of really bringing people in. So, I think the first thing is that you can do that is very low cost is get people involved, from the community in the process, as we were talking about earlier, in the building of and the making of, and harness that creativity, right? Because, even though you may be very limited from a budget perspective or from a capabilities perspective, if you get, you get great people that have some kind of empathy and understanding, solving that problem creatively, great things come from that. And then I think the second thing is, to the extent that the event is experiential, it is an event, there are presenters, in the thing, making sure that you, again, put people on that stage, in that panel, in the experience, in the hosting of it, that all people can see themselves, right? And I think there's no cost in that, right? It doesn't cost anything, and it goes, and it pays enormous dividends. And so there's some really very kind of simple things to do there. Then I think the third thing is the technology you do choose, the platforms you do choose. You think about, what we do at Microsoft Teams, for example. We use that as an incredible kind of showcase of what we're capable of in terms of placing that there. That is another great opportunity for you to make a choice that can maximize the accessibility of the programs that you're building and pursuing, whether it's 25 people in a room or it's 2,000 people in a ballroom.
Yeah, no, that's really true. That is the reality for so many of our customers, and I love that we've spent a lot of effort saying, how can we make Teams more accessible to, yes, the disability community, but to anyone else who might be tuning into a virtual event. Yeah. I love that you brought up the concept of why it's important to have diverse speakers. Not just because it's good to have diverse speakers, but you actually will have a much more diverse and included in the audience if you have the organizers and the speakers have a wide variety of lived experience. So thank you on behalf of the neurodivergent community, the disability community, and generally our entire global communities, 1.5+ billion people who we serve. So I really appreciate that. So what's next for event inclusion? What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, I think, look, it's the never-ending loop, right? We're a hamster on a wheel in that regard. I will say one thing, though, that I think is very important about this particular event. We so look forward to doing this every year. And I think the biggest reason is I think we look at this check-in, the Ability Summit, as the raising of the bar each year. What can we do? What more can we do? Where can we go next? What's the next level of iteration and innovation in these areas? And so the relationship we have between the show itself and the way we build it, and then the conversation we have with the audience, it's just so incredibly important. So what's next is listening to how this show goes and what people say back. Really is the most important next step, and then taking that as the baseline for where we go in the coming year.
I love that. That is so good. That Ability Summit is the baseline. We get to go first. Set, this is where we're at, and all other events kind of have to match this level of inclusion. That is fantastic. I love it. Thank you so much.
Donna, it's great. Great talking with you.
You too.
Thank you for participating. There's more to experience. Explore other content experiences in the top navigation bar. In animation, an L-shaped curve of rounded fabric squares undulates softly.